Hey there. So my name is Hammy. Today we're here at London Snow, and I'm gonna be going over how to do the fluid changes on the Kubota L6060 tractor. It's got three diff and rear fluid change, and the oil change and the fuel filter. So we're gonna be going over that today. So these fluid changes should be done every 400 hours, according to the manual. I personally like to start with the transmission fluid and all the rear filters at the back and kind of work my way up. So as you can kind of see in the book, there are three drain plugs, two on the rear axle, one in the middle for the transmission, and there are two filters on the passenger side. So we're going to be starting with that first. The first drain plug for the hydraulic, the rear axle differential fluid, is going to be here. And the socket I'm going with is going to be the 14 millimeter. So it's just going to be a lot of fluid coming out actually. Try and line up the pan as best as possible, but some fluid still might leak out. So in total, the hydraulic and the transmission fluid is about, according to the book, it's 45 liters, but depends on how you're doing the service. So if it's a full flush, it might be exactly 45. If you're just doing a fluid swap like me, it might be 30 to 35, somewhere around there. So I'm gonna fast forward time a little bit because this is going to take a while. So basically, I've run out of room in this pan, and I'm just gonna put the second one in. Again, try and line that up as best as I can and not to make a mess, which I already kind of have. So all the fluid's finally drained. Got the cap back on, sorry, the bolt, and then it's tightened, but try and be careful not to over tighten these because they are kind of fragile, especially for the rear axle. And now we're going to move forward with the middle drain for the transmission. We're going to move forward with the middle drain plug. So it's right there. And I'm using a 24 millimeter socket to take it off. Now this is the one that's going to have a lot of fluid. So be prepared for that. Like I said in the book, it says about 45 liters of fluid that should be coming out. And this is going to take, again, some time for all the fluid to drain. Also, if you look here, we've got our two filters right here, transmission filter, and the other one is the hydraulic filter. When this is done draining, this can be swapped right away after that. So I'll see you then. Okay, so let's put a cap on that. Now that
Yeah, works.
So the fluid doesn't want to end. It seems to want to keep going, or maybe it's because I'm using a smaller drain pan. But make sure to have a shower nearby because you might get soaked. So it's still not ending. Still going at it. Hopefully it's gonna end soon. The fluid doesn't want to stop. So maybe buy a bigger drain pan. Okay, that should be good. Swipe that down. All right, so finally the fluid is all done draining, and I'm gonna slap these two new filters on. Like I said, one is the HST filter, and the other one is the suction filter. All right, so I personally started using the belts to remove these two filters because for whatever reason they are extremely tight if you're going at it with a regular ring wrench. So with the belt, it came off super easy. It's loose enough to kind of just be removed by hand at this point. So that is filter number one. Get this out of the way. Oh, caught the fluid in time. Again, try not to take a shower or ask your boss to build a shower so you can take a shower if you do get fluid all over you. Yeah. So if you can see the notches on the filter, that's the HST filter. So the filter I'm putting on now is the HST filter, and it's going to be facing the hood of the tractor. I don't think there's a way to misthread them or put them on in each other's slot. I don't think you can do that, but just to kind of know. Okay, so that is hand tighten, and then I want to tighten these up with the regular ring wrench. So 2, and I think that should be okay. Actually, just a little bit more. Oh, yeah, that should be perfect. All right, so now that we're done draining all the fluid out of the back, what I personally like to do is drain the fluid out of the front axles because they all use the same fluid. So once all the fluid is drained, the filter is on, we can kind of just top up the fluid at once. Okay, so I want to start off with removing the fill plug first. So that way it's going to flow out much easier. That's loose, hopefully. No, guess not. Yeah, it's loose. All right. So this takes about 10 liters, according to the Kubota manual. There is a drain plug on both sides of the axle. I've placed this to hopefully catch all the mess that I'm going to make. And it should be the same socket size for the rear axles and the front axle drain plug. So I'm just going to open that up, hopefully catch all of it and not take a shower again. Don't have a shower here, so it's going to be a ride back home if I get soaked in fluid. So that's going to be a while. So all the fluid's done draining from this side. So I'm just going to get the plug back on, and then we're going to move over to the next side. All right, so now we've moved on to the next side, and I was surprised. It kind of seemed like it would have another fill plug, but it only has one over there because they're all connected. Surprisingly a neat design, if I say so myself. Same thing, this is going to get drained. It's kind of a crappy angle, but all right. So in total, this fluid should be about 8.5 liters. That's what the book recommends to put back in. There is a checking plug when we're getting the fluid back in to kind of know that we're at level with the axle. So that really is a handy thing to know. Plug is on now, and we're going to move forward with the next step. Okay, that should be good. So now that all the fluid has been drained, we're gonna put new fluid into the system, and it takes about 45 liters for the 3 drain plugs that we removed. Interesting thing is the front axle and the rear axle The transmission takes the same Kubota UDT fluid. So it's the same fluid. That's why I like to do it at the same time. So that way you're kind of in a sequence. You drain everything, and then you're putting one fluid in at one time. So this is the cap here. Let's get that off, and that's the dipstick. Should be completely empty. This is the fluid we're going to be putting in, UDT fluid for the transmission and the hydraulic system on this tractor. The front axle can also take gear oil, but since we're already using this, we're just going to put the same fluid front and back. And for the front axle, it's really a matter of choice. In the book, it says to put either one. So I'm going to go with this. It is a little bit time consuming for me because I'm going to go with a jug, or I have a hand pump actually. But it depends on where you are. You might have a shop line with, I don't know, air supplied fuel, so that might be a little bit faster. All right, so the fluid is finally filled up. We are at the level, and after we run the system, it's gonna settle into the filters and kind of move around, and then we'll get another reading after that to give us a more accurate reading on the oil level. So let's go do that. So we want to let the system run for a little bit, about, I guess, a minute or so. And I like to just have the blower come up and down and swivel, so then all the fluid is kind of getting everywhere. And then you can have your second look at the dipstick. And once that level is good, then we can, I guess, kind of road test. All right, beautiful. So the level is exactly in between the markings. So it is beautiful. Um, After this, I would drive it around for a little bit, get it up to operating temperature, and then check it again. But it should be fine. Now that we have the transmission and the rear axle filled up, we're going to top up the front axle now. Again, it uses the same fluid, and it takes about 8.5 liters if I remember correctly. There's also a check plug, so give it some time to let it kind of travel and fill up. Kind of like that. So I'm closing it in now to hopefully get all the fluid in. And we'll do a final check once it's all topped up. I've put in about 8 liters in, and that should be good. It was coming out of the check hole. So just gonna get that plug back on there and move on with the services. Real snug. Okay. That should be good for that. So make sure to tighten up the check plug over here. It's nice and snug. And we're gonna move forward with the next service. Okay, so now for the fun stuff that all the BS is behind us of that much fluid. This luckily is not going to take that much. The oil change on this is it's super easy. So first I like to take off this grill that's here to access the oil fill and to kind of just give myself more room. So there's 2 bolts here, one over here. All right, there it is. So that's off and out of the way. I'm gonna put these bolts back here so I don't lose them. And this gives you access for your fuel filter as well. And that's gonna be the next thing after the oil. So it has two drain plugs, one on this side, one on the other side. I'm gonna start with this side. It's right here. So let's get this backed off. Crack that open. There are two washers on that. I try and put new ones on, but if you don't have new ones, the old ones are going to be just fine. Try not to drop the washer into the pan. Just going to tighten that up. And okay, onto the passenger side. That's all snugged up. And just tighten that up a bit more. That should be perfect. All right, now onto the oil filter. So we're just gonna remove that. It's right here on the passenger side. Oh, came loose. Beautiful. Oh, never mind. All right. So it is gonna drip quite a bit. Make sure to have a pan underneath. Got the new filter here. Lube up the ring. Once the O-ring has some oil, throw that on there. And that should be good. So now that we've drained the oil, put the filter on, it's time to put new fluid in. And in the book, it actually shows you where the drain plugs are and everything. So it'll show you the two drain plugs that we removed, the engine oil filter location, and the dipstick, where the acceptable level is for the oil. And it'll tell you how much oil to put in. So oil capacity with filter, for the L6060 tractors, it is 9.4 liters. And if we move over here, it'll tell us which oil to use for all the different services. So for engine crankcase with filter, it's going to say 10W30 or 15W40. And then with the transmission service that we did, it shows 45 liters and use the super UDT fluid. Actually, in between these wires, kind of an annoying spot to get at, but luckily I've got this plier here to just crack that loose, just pull that out, and it'll say oil, obviously. Let's get the oil in. All right, so the oil level should be perfect now. I've put in about 8.5 liters. So we're gonna run the engine and double check. Almost forgot this cap. Don't forget to put your cap on. And it is beautifully in between. So that's perfect. Now we're done with the oil change. And now we're gonna move on to the fuel filters. For the fuel filter service, just like any other diesel, I'm sure, it's got a primary and a water separator over there. So I've already cracked it kind of loose. I'm just gonna remove it by hand now, and it should make a little bit of a mess, but it should be okay. All right. Okay. So, come on. All right. Make sure to watch for the O-ring. It doesn't get stuck up there. So I've got it filled with fresh diesel, so it'll be a little bit easier to start. And once you get that on there, so all right, so that's good. And then now we're okay. So that's on there snug. Now we're gonna take a look at the screen. But before I swap that, I like to let the system prime. So we'll just quickly come around here and put the key in the on position, and then that should prime itself. Once it's primed, after key on, key off, key on, key off, I'm gonna let the system run, and then we're gonna go over to the water separator. Okay, so to take this screen off, you got a shut off valve over here. So just flick this up. And then there's a ring over here. So I'm just gonna loosen this off. Okay, so finally got this off. It was a little bit over tight. So I'm not really too sure on how they might, I mean, yeah, I guess. So maybe don't over tighten. I don't know. So throw this out. And then we're gonna have one spring to compress the screen. And this orange tab is for when water gets in, so fuel is gonna rise. And then you can see where the water level is, so you can kind of open it up and throw out the water, put it back on. Kubota does provide new screens. Let's take a look. So it doesn't actually look too bad. I might just blow it out and put it back on, but depends on the situation, right? So if it's completely, covered in shit, then maybe get a new screen. Let's get that snugged up, and then open up your line. So when you turn the key on, it should fill up with fluid. So I'll turn the key on. Fantastic. The primer is going on right now because the key is on. Make sure to always cycle the key a few times before trying to start it. If there's too much air in the system, it's not going to start. You're going to have to just go back and forth with it. And that's it for all the services. Your fill cap is on and everything is kind of there. We can put the shield back on there. So didn't have to look for the bolts this time because I put them over here. So let's get the first one in. Okay. And then try and line up the second one. Okay. So with that, all the fluid changes are done. We went over the transmission and the rear axles, the hydraulic fluid. We went over the engine oil filter and how much it takes. And lastly, the fuel filter. These services are required every 400 hours, according to the service intervals. So they'll be due again at 400 hours. There are other services that are also due at 400 hours depending on if the tractor needs it. So if somebody wants to do them, they have to go through their service interval and check if their tractor needs those services. And yeah, that's kind of it.